1. I was 8 years old when we moved house for the second time. My grandmother was in the early stages of Alzheimer's, and my mother wanted to be close by in order to help care for her. A few days after moving into the house, still at the stage of unpacking cardboard boxes, but with some semblance of order starting to take shape, my mother sent me to the local shops with a list of groceries to start stocking up the kitchen. We'd been living on takeaway food since the move, and she had decided that it was time for us to start eating properly again. It was early in the morning, late in March, and while the air was completely clear at street level, the surrounding hills were covered in fog, making them almost invisible against the skyline. Despite the gloomy day, I was in no particular hurry to get to the shops, and I stopped for a while at the school gates to peer through the railings. This was going to be my new school once the Easter holidays were over, and I was curious to see the layout of the buildings and the grounds. As I turned my attention from the building to the schoolyard, my eyes traveled up toward the hillside in the distance, and there, emerging out of the fog, were the ruins of an old castle on the hill. I distinctly recall seeing 2 intact towers with turrets, ramshackle walls, and an overall impression of it being built of dark stone. At this point, I should say that there was nothing creepy, threatening, or spooky about it in the slightest. In fact, my thoughts were, hey, that looks really cool. I wonder if you can get up there to have a look around. I made a mental note to put it on my list of new places to explore once we'd settled in, and continued on to the shops. I think it must have been around a week later when I was walking along that same stretch of road with my father, and as we approached the school gates, I thought I'd point the castle out to him and ask if he knew whether it had a name and if he could get up there to visit. I was totally gobsmacked when I looked up at the hillside, and there was nothing there. Just a clearing among the trees. Maybe I was looking in the wrong place. Had it been on a different hillside, to the left or the right of where I thought it was? There was no fog this morning, and things looked a little different. But no, nothing. We moved house again a couple of years later, but for the entire time I was at that school, not a day passed when I didn't stop at the gates and scour the hillside for a sight of that castle. I absolutely know what I saw. Over the years, I've tried and failed to find historic records of a castle somewhere in that location. And once satellite imagery became widely available on the internet, yes, I'm that old, I've searched the whole area for any sign of a building or structure that I could have mistaken for a castle. Absolutely nothing. My rational mind tells me that I was just a child, it was a new area to me. The hills were foggy and I must simply have been mistaken. But I have such a clear memory of precisely where I was standing, which way I was looking, and exactly what I saw. Besides, there's absolutely nothing else anywhere in that area that could look like a castle even through fog. I've also considered that maybe it was some sort of weird hallucination brought on by some kind of childhood anxiety. But there's absolutely nothing to support that other than the absence of any other rational explanation. And why on earth would I hallucinate a castle? So there you have it. I guess that it will always remain a mystery. I can't say that I personally believe in the more extraordinary explanations, but it's fun to speculate and theorize, and the rational explanations don't quite hit the mark for me either. 2. I should start this post by saying that I routinely change my name. I was given a very Scottish name at birth, but moved to the US during my childhood and realized, very quickly, that absolutely nobody could pronounce it. When I was 14, I decided to change my birth name to something Americans could pronounce, and since then I've changed my name every 16 to 24 months. I know this might seem really strange, but for me, it symbolizes a change in identity. So far, I've gone by 4 different names. About 3 weeks ago, I was overwhelmed by the feeling that I'd gone by 2 other names at some point in my life. Those 2 names were Emma and Claire. I've never known someone who has either of these names, and as far as I know, I've never thought about adopting them myself. To my knowledge, Emma came before Claire, and neither name lasted for very long. The realization hit when I was enjoying my morning tea at around 9 a.m. I was up and dressed at this time, sitting alone at my kitchen table. Right before I went out to start my day, I was smacked by a barrage of very clear memories of friends and family calling me by both names. It was the kind of realization you get on your way home from the grocery store, when you realize you've forgotten the milk. Kind of unprompted, but brings with it a relief and maybe even a clarity moment. This realization winded me. After the initial memories flooded into my brain, they slowly began fading. At this point, I can only recall 3 clear memories. The first and clearest memory was of my high school best friend calling for me, Emma, in the hallway between classes. In this memory, I responded immediately, with a slight feeling of pride and comfort that my friend called me by my new name. Our classes were spread through this massive school, which had 27 buildings. This memory was in a hallway I only hung out in when I was in freshman year, putting me at about 14 or 15 years old. The second memory was of a dinner-time conversation with my parents, in which my dad references a conversation he had with a co-worker about his talented and artistic daughter, Claire. This conversation was in response to his co-worker inquiring about art schools he should look into for his son, who wanted to study art. My dad suggested that he talk to me directly, as at the time I was also looking at art schools. The timeline for this is more ambiguous. I looked into art programs from ages 15 to 17. The third was a memory I have of updating my personal Facebook page with the name Claire. This memory is short and a little fuzzy. I'm guessing this memory came at age 15 or 16, as it was on my dad's old and outdated laptop. I got my first laptop for my 17th birthday. Since then, I've asked around and absolutely nobody remembers this experience at all. My high school best friend told me that he would never have seen me in that hallway, as we never had classes there at the same time. My dad remembers the conversation with his co-worker, but doesn't recall talking to me about it at dinner, and I have nobody to help corroborate the last memory. Feels like I'm going nuts. Could this be a glitch? 3. It was sometime in January. I was walking by the lake, my house is 3 homes up from the lake, having a smoke, when I noticed an older lady walking her dog on the same path as me. I said, "Hi, great day for a walk." She returned the sentiment. We exchanged names and she began to open up to me. Her husband had hit her on Christmas Day and left her. He tore up some shrubs, took her phone charger, took her computer, and took her car. She was devastated. She was crying. She said she was attacked by a dog years ago, that her husband abused marijuana, that he made her do all the hard work, and that he was always abusive. I gave her a hug, and she cried, and I offered to take her to the store to get groceries and a phone charger. She said she wouldn't be opposed because she has such a difficult time getting an Uber or a taxi. I gave her my home phone number, and she remembered it. It may be worth mentioning here, for synchronistic reasons, you're welcome readers, that she had friends in Phoenix and they bought her a plane ticket to come visit, but she couldn't make it to the airport or print the ticket. I offered to her the use of my printer. Okay, so a few days go by and I'm leaving to go to a dental appointment, when I get a call from a number in the area. It was the lady. She needed to go to a doctor's appointment later that day, and I said I could take her, but I would have to call her back when I returned from my dental appointment. She agreed, and when I got back from my appointment and called, she had already arranged a ride from a local taxi company. So, this is when it gets weird. About a week later, my parents were having their bathroom refinished, and at random, the thought of that lady pops into my head. The phone rings. It was the construction company. 2 of their workers were in the house working on the bathroom. I let it ring a few times before answering. My dad picks up at the same time as me. We both say hello. It was that lady. She sounded like a ghost. Hello? At this point, my dad starts talking like he didn't know I picked up the phone as well. He's all confused. "Hello, is anyone there?" he asks. I hear the lady say, "I'm not even here," and just repeat that a whole bunch of times. I was flabbergasted. I went downstairs to talk to my dad. He confirmed what happened. Said the phone's caller ID was a construction company. But it was that lady on the phone, but he couldn't make out what she was saying. Note, my dad answered the phone the morning I had a dental appointment when she called. So that's how he knew what she sounded like. Spooky. 4. 2 days ago, I had the most strangest experience ever. I do not smoke or take drugs and do not drink, ever. Yet I had an experience that I just cannot explain or even comprehend how it could have happened. I tried Googling and came across this subreddit. Thought I'll post here to see if I can make some sense of what happened. Friday evening I was feeling hungry, so decided to get some food from my local fish and chips shop. I fancied a grilled lamb shish, so I phoned the shop and asked if they can start cooking it, as I didn't want to go into the shop and wait for them to cook it. I asked the chip shop owner how long it will take to get ready, and he said 15 minutes. I said I will make my way to him in 10 minutes. The shop is only 2 minutes drive away from where I live. I went upstairs and changed my clothes, and then left to go to the shop. I drove there, went in, and got my food. There was 3 other customers at the shop, a mixed-race woman and 2 other males. The 2 males stood out as one was African and the other was Indian. They stood out, as I remember, thinking they looked like an odd couple. It was obvious that they were gay, but seemed an odd couple just by the way they looked at me. Anyway, I left with my food and went home. I got home and realized that I forgot to get myself a drink with the meal. I sat down and ate. After finishing the food, I cleared up and went to feed my cats, which were in a home cattery in my garden. I went upstairs and changed back into my pajamas. I came back downstairs and picked up a vinyl record to listen to. I sat on the sofa to relax when my mobile phone rang. This is where it all goes weird. I pick up the phone and it's the guy from the chip shop. He is telling me that my food is ready and that they are waiting for me. I told him I've already come and collected the food over 30 to 40 minutes ago. He told me I didn't, as I only called 20 minutes ago to order the food. At this point I was confused and thought I must have dozed off, but I definitely was not tired or sleeping. I went back upstairs and changed, and then drove to the shop, still feeling very confused. When I got to the shop, I saw the same 3 customers again, and the 2 guys were exactly how I saw them the first time. I remember thinking this is some weird déjà vu. At this point, I made sure I got my drink, as I knew I forgot it before, but as I was doing it, I felt that all of this was very strange. I went home and sat down with the food. I had a couple of chips and realized I can't have any, as I am full and can clearly see my belly is bloated. I knew at that point that I've had my food already, so what the hell was going on? I checked the bin to see if there was rubbish from the food I had prior. There wasn't. I checked the cat food, and it looked like I haven't used any tins yet, but I am 100% sure I did all that already. I then checked my phone, and saw that I called the chip shop at 7:47 p.m. The chip shop then called me at 8:13 p.m. I wasn't laying down or resting when I made that call. I was busy with some housework. What the hell did I experience between 7:45 and 8:13 p.m.? I have never experienced anything remotely like this before. Any help trying to make sense of this would be appreciated. 5. I don't know what I believe about the nature of our existence, but I thought you guys might like to hear my weird glitch story that, to this day, I need to suppress to get on with my life because I just can't explain it. When I was about 12, I went to a horse camp for the summer. It was a really small camp of about 20 kids total, of different ages, and over the summer I got to know all of them as well. My best friend that summer was a girl my age named Brittany. I have loads of memories with Brittany. We were in charge of feeding the baby sheep together. We used to sneak off during sports. We made sister pacts. We spent all of our time together. We were both enrolled in strict religious private schools, but different religions. She was Baptist. We talked about God. She thought Jews didn't believe in God because they didn't follow Jesus. I remember her being dirty blonde, tall and lanky, with long features and a big jaw. She had freckles and round blue eyes that popped out a little. Even after all these years, I can picture her face. 2 years later, I'm at a school cross-country running meet. One of my classmates tell me that she met a girl from another school who says she knows you from horse camp. I get excited and say it must be Brittany. My classmate looks a little confused and says, "No, I think her name was Amy. Anyway, she's over there." I go over to where her team is stretching and scan the group for tall, lanky, blonde Brittany. I stand there for a few minutes until the short brunette girl hugs me. I look down completely puzzled as I don't recognize this girl at all. She's short, athletically built, with a round face and brown eyes, and I know I've never seen her before in my life. She stands there frozen as she tells me her name is Amy. I was her best friend in camp that summer. She mentions the sheep and tells me she remembered my school name, and that's how she knew to find me. I weakly ask her if her name used to be Brittany. At this point, she starts to recoil and looks at me like I've burned her. I try to explain that I just don't remember her, and she becomes very upset. She has tears in her eyes and she starts asking me if I remember specific things we did together. I remember them, but with a different girl. I had identical memories to her from that same summer, but when I pictured them, it happened with a completely different person. I have never seen this Amy person before, and remember, it was a small camp. I remembered everyone who went there. She just wasn't there in my memory. Besides, Brittany was the only other girl my age, and this girl Amy was the same age and remembered doing things with me that I remembered doing with Brittany. I went home, unable to think about anything else. There were 2 options. Did my memory somehow glitch and elaborately misremember both the name and the appearance of this girl? Had I replaced all my memories with the image of a girl that perhaps my mind completely invented? Or, and yes, this occurred to me at the time, have I somehow crossed into another timeline? Did Amy meet my doppelganger? Or an alternate me from another dimension? Is this supernatural? At the next meet, I found Amy and tried interrogating her more. She was very hurt and annoyed and didn't really want to talk to me. She couldn't understand why I couldn't remember her because we were so close. I told her, it's the strangest thing, I remember her, but I just remember her being different. She thought I was insane. It's hard to remember now, but I think she also mentioned the year we went to camp together. And it was a different year than the only year I attended that camp. To this day, I was never able to wrap my head around what happened here. I know the mind is capable of creating false memories. I've read some psychological studies on memories that really make you question our ability to rely on them at all. So it could just be that. I don't have memory trouble in general, and no mental illness, but even so, it could have been a strange mistake I made in my mind. But then, isn't it weird that I wasn't able to even recognize Amy when I saw her? It was as if I had never seen her before. When I think back on it, I just get the creepiest feeling. I haven't thought about it for years, because it raises the hairs on the back of my neck. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Glitch in the Matrix Stories 24. Thank you very much to everyone who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Okay, a little bit of channel business. People keep asking me to do a Q&A, and I do point them towards the one that I have done, but I think they really mean they want something fresher. So if you have questions, pop them in the usual places, and I will gather them. If you ask a question on the channel, I'll probably just save it for the Q&A as well, even if it's not intended. I'll gather all questions like I did last time, and when I'm ready, I'll pop them in a video and do my best to answer them. But it might be a while away. I think a lot of you guys remember it took me a while to get it done and finished the last time. So, just like last time, it's something I'll do, but it's not a priority, because getting the regular videos done are the priority, and the next Q&A will just be something I do when I can fit it in, when I've got a spare 20-30 minutes here and there to work on it. Okay, and with that, I think I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.